Dave has a unique take on, I think, what is happening in contemporary society. That's what attracted him when it was English August that he was doing, and Split Wide Open too, is always a keen look at society and where it stands today. And his take on that societal position. He is a, a, a thinker, yet he knows that his cinematic vision has to be entertaining. He's not self-indulgent or arty or anything like that. To my mind, he's one of the few contemporary filmmakers in the country. He's very sensitive to what actors need and to what actors require in terms of their homework before a film. He will answer questions on motivation, about reasons, about what actually happens and why. He gives actors a lot of freedom to do what they want to do and to try what they want to try. And yet at the end of it, he's always there to say, this works best and this doesn't work as well. I mean, he's not an actor at all, but he understands good performances, and it's a pleasure working with him.
What kind of a character are you playing here, and what kind of a guy is this?
I'm playing KP, whose name is Cut Price, and KP actually is on the lowest rung of the water mafia in the city, where he actually controls 4 taps that he opens for money, which actually, the taps are municipal taps, but in Bombay nothing is free, so he controls those taps. He supplies water tankers to buildings that don't have any water from the black market. So basically he's very much involved in the mafia business to do with water. He also tries quietly on the side to make money selling foreign bottles of mineral water to people in multinationals and media companies and stuff like that, Poland spring water or fine Italian water or whatever it is. And his boss, the mafia boss, comes to know that he's trying to make a side income. Kicks him out of the mafia, takes away the scooter, takes away his mobile phone. Basically, KP is reduced to nothing. So this happens very early on in the film. Simultaneously, he is very fond of a girl in the slums who he calls Didi, his adopted sister. And she goes missing. So he's on the streets with no money. The only person in the world he cares for is missing. And the film starts the search for Didi, as well as a search for survival. How is he going to survive now? Through the journey of survival, he meets Leila, whose character is Nandita in the film. She's the host of a show called Split Wide Open. And she interviews people who have their secret lives to tell about what they lead in Bombay. And she says, look, you're in touch with people on the streets, so why don't you find me people from the seamy underbelly of Bombay, and I will interview them and pay you money for getting guests on my show. So that's when their relationship starts. And so the film actually moves on these 3 tracks, right down to the end. The relationship with Leila, his quest for Didi and where that ends, as well as his search for survival.
The seamy underbelly of society that we see, is it portrayed in a humorous manner, or is it a very stark and realistic? What flavor is it?
I think it's in your face. To say it's stark would suggest the starkness of the 1970s art films. To say it's humorous would be a bit like English August. I think it's neither. It's dark and it's in your face, and it's full of energy. So the dynamism comes from the energy, but the reality is not ever cloaked. But it's, today reality is not stark black and white pictures. Today reality is in your face in this country, saturated with color, with music, with chaos. And that's how the film is.
KP as a character is far removed from you, the lifestyle that you lead.
This is true.
So how do you prepare, and give me an example of the language that KP speaks in?
Oh God, I don't even know if I can do that. It was so long ago. Well, this is the first role ever that I've done where I have found no identification point with the broad characteristic of the character I'm playing. KP is a survivor, and I've never felt that need within me, that naked, hungry survival instinct. Normally one can find, English August, you were supposed to be wry, laid back, humorous, intelligent. Normally you can find that kind of thing in you. But with KP, I had to actually empathize with people who I saw who were survivors on the street and make that mine. So for the first time, it was not from within to without, it was without to within. As well as I also sort of lived in the slums for a couple of months, and never at night because, you know, drug bust and cops would raid you and stuff like that. And I actually understood the face of the new slum dweller today is so different from what the romanticized notion is in popular films. I got a sense of that. I shadowed a cocaine dealer for 2 months because, you know, KP deals in water and this guy deals in cocaine. And so for me, shadowing him to understand his psyche, how he spoke very well in English to people from who he was selling the cocaine to, people in upmarket households, and then coming back to the slums at night and abusing, you know, his friends or his wife or whatever. So the whole thing put together actually cohered for me what KP was going to be like. And as far as his language is concerned, there's lots of it in the film. So if I try, it won't be as good as it was in the film. It's like you learn a language and then you lose it because you don't practice enough. And in any case, whatever I would say to you today in that language, you'd have to cut because it would be peppered with abuse.
Is this preparation for a role, is that an interesting process for you, or is it just a lot of pain that?
It's the most interesting process because it takes you deep down back into the times when you were a child and you liked playing roles. So that's the whole thing about playing somebody else. And so getting into the skin of the character is the best fun. It's the time when you can actually be a kid and start pretending and start, you know, walking that way. And that whole process is for me very exciting. Once the film starts, the effort has to stop and the magic has to flow. And so I have to do a lot of work, a lot of work to actually get to the point where you see that magic flowing. And if you see people of all crafts, cricketers, singers, actors, any performer, what you see is magic. But if you ever saw Charlie Chaplin, he rehearsed everything he did at least 50 times. And it all looks so spontaneous on screen. So spontaneity and magic is an illusion. But I like the work part of it a lot. I like the work part of it immensely.
Takshak is this film that is just, it's not done too well, but your performance is really got rave reviews. How do you feel now, you know, a commercial film, you know, your work is being seen by Hollywood and best of India, whatever?
How do I feel? I've never ever done anything keeping in mind my public. Like, oh, I'm doing this film because it'll make me popular in Kanpur. No, it doesn't. It's something that it never crosses my mind. I've come back. I was spent 8 months in London. I've come back just after Takshak has sort of released and finished with. And I find people on the streets are recognizing me. And it's very disconcerting, but it's nice. Fame is always nice. No one is saying no to that. It's more important for me as a human being to be less well known than my ability. If you are this good, your fame should be this much. If you are this good and your fame is that much, then you're in trouble. Because then you're going to be insecure for the rest of your life. So I'm very happy if my work is far better than the response I've gotten. Do you know what I mean? Now, as far as Takshak goes, sometimes I find that the response to my performance has been too generous. But it's not that I'm, you know, a Shah Rukh Khan or an Amir Khan or a Salman Khan. I mean, I'm not nowhere near that popular. And I'm very happy doing stuff that I enjoy. The popularity, when it comes and how it comes, I, frankly, am only concerned with the approval, the criticism of people I respect, people whose comments I would actually listen to. And the rest of it is wonderful, but not crucial to my existence.